Okay, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel Football Analytics. Today I'm going to be giving out the second part of the weekend, which is Sunday, Monday, tips for those days. And if you're a newcomer here, I suggest that you start betting on goals instead of outcomes of games. And also try, if you could, to start betting on singles and doubles instead of the huge accumulators. Now, before we get into the tips, let's check out what we had in the previous video, which is tonight's tips. I'm recording this right after the games. So we had as the first tip, which was a horrible one by me, Preston against QPR. My thinking behind the tip was that Preston would at least score one goal because they lost 2 games in a row and they got dominated and embarrassed by a relegation team in QPR. So yeah, that was a terrible tip. That's on me, guys. Then we had Anderlecht over 1.5 against Westerlo. Anderlecht took care of business. They won that game 3-1. Then Las Palmas over 1 goal against Getafe. 2-0 right at the buzzer, but Las Palmas won that game. And they ended Getafe's huge streak of not losing a game. And for the last tip, I suggested to go with the Graafschap over 1.5 or a win for the first time on the channel because Oz keeps losing games 1-0. And they did it again. It's unreal. So overall, the tips went how they should have, except the Preston one. So let's start off with the Sunday's tips and let's head to La Liga, a game between Almeria and Betis. Now, Almeria is by far the worst team in La Liga, only 3 points in the last 14 games. They're probably the worst team in the top 5 leagues and also elsewhere. And Betis is currently in the striking distance of getting into the top 5 on the table. There's one stat that I like about this game is that Betis hasn't scored over 1 goal in 3 consecutive games. And this is the perfect opportunity. I mean, they're playing a team that conceded 37 goals in 14 games. And in every single home game this season, they conceded 2 or more goals. So will Betis be the only one not scored over 1.5? Because bookies are giving us pretty good odds, almost at 2. It's at 190 right now. So my tip here is pretty clear, is to go with Betis over 1.5 against Almeria. Now for the second tip, let's head to the Bundesliga, a game between Augsburg and Frankfurt. In the table, those 2 teams are 4 points within each other. Augsburg is in great form. 5 consecutive games in the Bundesliga without losing. And Frankfurt, on the other hand, is on a 3-game streak without winning. Also 2 losses in a row. But Frankfurt is a really, really good team away. In the last 5 games, they got 4 wins and 1 draw. So I think BTTS could be a good option here, but I would lean towards taking Frankfurt here. So my tip for you guys would be is to go with Frankfurt over 1 goal for odds 150. Now for the third tip, we head to the French First Division, a game between Monaco and Montpellier. Monaco is currently in 3rd place, but they did lose some ground to PSG, now 6 points because they had that terrible loss 5-2, even though we had Monaco just to score that game. And their opponent Montpellier is doing pretty bad, 2 points away from the relegation zone. So I'm expecting here Monaco to bounce back, considering they haven't won 2 games in a row already. And they're a great home team. In the last 6 games, they won 5 of those and they scored over 1.5 goals. So my tip here is to go with Monaco over 1.5 for odds 153. Now for the last tip, let's head to Serie A, a game between Napoli and Inter, a huge one considering Juventus just won against Monza on the 94th minute. And Napoli already lost way too many points in the beginning of the season. That's why Rudi Garcia got fired. So they brought back Mazzari. I'm not too sure about that coach, but only time will tell. And they actually lost just now a couple of days ago to Real Madrid, conceding 4 goals. And also Inter conceded a lot of goals against Benfica. They were losing 3-0 that game, but they ended up almost winning that game and finished 3-3. So I'm not too sure about Inter here though, because they're missing Pavard and Bastoni is not going to play in that game. So they're a bit thin in defense. So I'm looking for Napoli to score here, especially considering they have been absolutely terrible at home. So we'll play it safe here to take Napoli over 1 goal. The odds are currently 160. Now, these were my tips for Sunday. I have one suggestion for you guys because this team is blacklisted for me. You know who it is, Copenhagen. They're playing Aarhus, which has been in a great form as of late. 8 positive results. And Copenhagen, we know the story. They haven't won in 3 games in a row. That's why they're on the blacklist. But for you guys, the ones that haven't been taken on Copenhagen, if it's a fresh team for you, I don't think over 1.5 is a bad bet here. The odds are currently at 183. So my suggestion here is to go with Copenhagen. They're the much better team. They're still first place, best team in Denmark, and they have to bounce back. It's not normal for a top team like that to not keep winning winning game. So over 1.5 for odds 183 as a suggestion. So let's start off with the Monday's tips. We got a game in Serie A between Torino and Atalanta. Atalanta currently fell to the 7th place because they haven't won 3 games in a row. And their opponent Torino has been up and down all season long. There's one stat that I like here, and it's pretty crazy, is that Atalanta, being a high-scoring team, I know this is not the Atalanta that we used to know in the previous years, always BTTS over 2.5. They're more defensive now. But this stat, they haven't scored over 1 goal in 5 consecutive games. So you know what the tip may be here? No, I'm not going with over 1.5. The tip here is over 1 goal because the bookies are giving us good odds at 166. So I'm looking here for Atalanta finally to break out of their scoring slump and to score at least 1 goal, and we'll see about the 2 goals. So if you have this bet, which means over 1 refund, and if they score over 1.5, you win the bet. But if you don't have it, I wouldn't suggest to go over 1.5. Over 0.5 for them just to score. That's a much better one, even though lower odds. Now for the second tip, let's head to Denmark, a game between one of our money makers all season long, Midtjylland, versus Viborg, the team that hasn't been kind to us last game because they played Copenhagen and they won that game. And Midtjylland is the hottest team in Denmark now, 5 consecutive wins. And why not continue go with their momentum? They're scoring over 1.5 goals almost in every single game. And that will be my second tip. The odds are currently 160 for Midtjylland over 1.5 against Viborg. Now for the third tip, let's head to the Turkish league for the first time this year, a game between Fenerbahce and Sivasspor. Now Fenerbahce is currently first in the league, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries. That just proved now in the Europa League. They lost 6-1. We had over 1 goal on Nordsjælland. And their opponent Sivasspor is a mid-table team. However, they managed to score 3 goals against Trabzonspor last weekend. And look, considering all the injuries Fenerbahce has, I'm leaning towards taking BTTS here. The odds are really good. It's almost at 190. So that will be my third tip. Now for the last tip, let's head to La Liga, a game between Celta and Cadiz. Celta is currently in the relegation zone, only 8 points, one of the worst home teams there is. They still haven't won 1 game at home. And their opponent Cadiz is not that much better. They're only 3 points away from the relegation zone. That's from Celta. And the stat that I like about this game is that Celta have conceded in every single home game this season. This game is tough though because it could potentially be low scoring, but I believe Cadiz can score 1 goal, and the bookies are giving us odds 171. But as I said, this tip, guys, see for yourself because La Liga on Mondays is sometimes not a great thing. Okay, so this is it for part 2 of the weekend. We got about 8 tips and 1 suggestion. If you appreciate the information I provide, hit the thumbs up on the video, really appreciate it. And I think I'll be back during the week. I mean, there's no Champions League. There is going to be the domestic cup games, which I'm definitely going to avoid. But at the same time, there's going to be Premier League and the French League and some other leagues. So let's see if there's good odds. But I'll drop a video during the week, so you'll have everything covered on this channel, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bet responsibly. Stay healthy. Good luck this weekend. And I'll see you in the next one. Adios.